I would have all these feelings all at once, and I didn't have any idea what to do with them, and they were very, very threatening. And I didn't have to do anything. The body could just, I could just get out of the way and let the body process it, but I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was threatening, and 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 I won't say it overwhelmed me, because that would have meant I would have like passed out or something. So it wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was close to that. And the thing that helped me through it, just to help, you know, anyone else that's listening to this is having this issue, was I just breathed long, slow, and deep while that stuff was coming up. And I didn't get into the mind. I just felt it. I didn't get into why is this happening? And I
Yeah.
didn't, I just kept breathing, because, my mind could go into, I remember I was like, if I feel one more iota of this, I'm going to spontaneously combust. And I was like, that's what my mind does. So that's
Yeah.
not helpful. So I just focused, where's my attention, right? Is it on the insanity of the mind, or is it on the breath, right? That'll take you through it.
Yeah.
So breath is this beautiful bridge through.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become the best possible versions of themselves and to strive for overall health, mental health, emotional health, physical health, all of the healths, without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who've been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time somebody shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. Yeah, tell me a little bit about you. Who
It's
are
so
you?
great. It's so great to be here. Um, I'm a stress management and historical trauma specialist by trade, trauma trained and yoga informed addiction recovery coach, and ancestral clearing practitioner. Um, this sounds like a lot of things, but it's really kind of all under stress management.
Hmm.
I'm really focused at the chronic pain end of stress management, because I know it well. I was in chronic pain for 4 decades, and doctors really didn't know what to do with me until I found a doctor that actually did know what to do with me, and and um, and help me heal. And because there's a misunderstanding in the Western world about healing from chronic pain, that like you can't heal from chronic pain, and um, unless it's like non-cancer. I'm not talking like cancer pain. I'm just that's
Right.
different. But um, I was told a long time that I would never heal from it, and I saw that as a limitation in the model that the doctors were operating under, not so much on a reflection of the body's ability to heal.
Right.
So I was just kind of, I just kept looking for people that kind of understood that. And I finally found a doctor who understood the nature of chronic pain and how to heal it. And he helped me do that. So I help people with that too. I'm not a doctor or a therapist, but I'm a great coach in the space supporting other people. Yeah. Mhm.
That's awesome. So my question for you would be, what were like the mental aspects of the physical healing, if that makes sense? Because I know, like for me, I was an emotion stuffer for most of my life up until like 7 months ago. And as soon as I started healing, like my soul, my body started healing. So I
Mhm.
want to know, like, was that a big part of your chronic pain healing?
It was a part of it. It wasn't the only part. They had me on medication, which I didn't do well with. So getting off of that was a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was trained. The way I stayed safe when I was young was to keep my emotions suppressed. But it was like, we don't want to see you happy or sad. We just want you to be quiet.
Yeah,
It was pretty
that
much.
whole
And
children should be seen, not heard.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
that. excel in school. We don't hope that you'll excel. We expect you to excel. So there was a lot of pressures from different angles, and so there was an emotional component which I never really understood until I got in Dr. Przekop's um, um, pain management program. He wrote a book, Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind Body Approach, Dr. Peter Przekop. He passed away in 2016 or 17, and he left us this book. So it's amazing. But
Awesome.
he understood that underneath the physical in chronic pain was not just the brain has changed. So chronic pain, let's just lay that out for the listeners, is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more is chronic. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, any of it. It's interesting because it all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's physical, emotional, it doesn't matter what kind, it's all sending the same signal. So the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart.
Mm,
Right?
that's big.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge, and physical pain emotional pain, as you know, can journal over into physical pain and vice versa. So you asked about the mental aspects of physical pain. Um, the problem with pain, chronic pain, different from acute pain. Let's just go there for a minute. We have something in the body called a stress response, which it goes into the on position when we're threatened or super stressed, which is usually a threat of some sort, and then we deal with whatever that is. It brings up a biological, biochemical reactions and behavioral reactions, and we deal with the threat, and then the stress response goes back to normal. In chronic pain, the stress response stays on in the on position. It doesn't go back to normal. So we're stuck in this chronically stressed state. And it's no wonder it creates a lot of physical pain because we're actually not made for that. That's not kind of the way that the system seems to be designed.
Yeah.
So it creates a lot of I can give you kind of an example for normal people, or for
Normal.
a time when maybe you were not in chronic pain and you were healing, and then all of a sudden something happened and you had a big event one day, and like the next day you felt like, like you maybe a little bit hungover, or you're feeling like, I'm still recovering from this thing that happened.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're actually metabolizing you're metabolizing the things that got created in that stressful environment. The body's got to process that stuff, and that's what you're feeling, and then you get back to normal. Well, in chronic stress and chronic pain, those metabolites are present all the time, and it's body. So there's that piece of it, that issue. The other thing is that the brain is changed by the chronic pain experience, not just the way I just told you with the stress response, not just that way, but we also have this pronounced negative mind. So we already have a little bit of a negative bias, like something new comes along and we're like, no, and then we have to make a decision. Well, maybe, or yes, right. But it's usually like, no, it's usually that keeps us safe in the world. So we kind of have a little bias that way, but in chronic pain, it gets accentuated, exaggerated. And that negativity, that negative mind, because the emotional part of the brain is also changed by chronic pain, that negative mind, we tend to we kind of do both things. We'll turn it out into the external world, it's all your fault, and we'll turn it back into us, it's all my fault. So that's where the emotional piece comes in, where everybody's wrong. The world is wrong, I'm wrong, you're wrong, and it creates a lot of suffering. So the physical can create this emotional, mental suffering, and that was probably my biggest battle. with all those years of chronic pain and I came up with this gift. I came in with this gift. You talk about like what's unique. I
Mm-hmm.
came in, I swear to God, I came in with this gift, which I feel came from my ancestors, of gratitude. So
Mm.
kind of no matter how bad it got, I was able to like be grateful for something. And that
Yeah.
I feel like that was a great modulating effect on the um, experience that I had of chronic pain. I feel like that helped me get through it. I had a meditation practice too, but which was helpful. It was helpful, but it's a lot stronger when you're not in chronic pain. The meditation's much more powerful when we're not in chronic pain.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's some of the mental. We get. I mean, I kind of noticed this thing called the cycle of suffering, which we do in the chronic pain experience, and I kind of noticed it because I was doing it. I was like, oh, this is a thing, and I wasn't the only one. This is actual thing. So we have an experience of chronic pain, and we can't share it, and it's dysregulating. We can't share it, so we get disconnected. We're disconnected from other people because we can't share the experience.
Yeah.
We get disconnected, we're disassociated from ourselves because we don't even want to be here because it hurts so much, right? So there's disconnection. We might even feel disconnected from God if we have a belief in God. Maybe God's punishing us, but the connection gets distorted there. So we get disconnected. Then um, we we're we get angry, we get a resentment, right?
Yeah.
We can't control our experience, and we try and control it, and we know that we can't. And because we can't, we get angry, and then we've got this resentment, and now we're kind of off to the races because we're in relationship with this thing, right? We're disconnected from ourselves and others, but we're in relationship with this thing, this pain thing, and we try and control it, and we can't. And because we can't, we get angry, and then we get more disconnected, and it's a cycle, right?
Yeah.
You try and control it more. Oh, if I try harder, right? And that doesn't work. And then we get more resentful, and there's more suffering. So it's this, I call it the cycle of suffering. It's this negative downward spiral, which we can get out of if we do things that help reset the changes in the brain. We have to, in
Mm.
order to heal chronic pain, we have to heal the changes in the brain. And I
Yeah.
just gave you a bunch of things that cause it. The things that heal it are the things that I teach. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My experience with chronic pain, it lasted, I want to say like 2-ish years. I had extreme plantar fasciitis in both feet,
Oh,
both feet. And so
oh,
it
goodness.
was like, for the listener, if you don't know what that is, I can tell you what it feels like. And it feels like every morning you wake up and you step onto an ice pick.
Oof.
And so, I didn't know what it was. And at the time I was teaching spin class, like the indoor cycling.
Mhm.
And I finally, saw a foot doctor, I think a year into it. And then it took me a year to heal with all the remedies that they gave me, the stretches. And one of the things that really helped me was like have you seen the percussion massagers? Where
Yeah,
it's
I'm not
like
sure.
it looks like a massage gun, and the massage part goes like this, but really fast, and then you
Oh,
put that into whatever knot.
uh-huh.
Um, so that helped, and then I had to get custom orthotics.
Mm.
But the mental part of it for me was I had to, when I brought it up to the gym I was working at, I'm like, can I go on leave? And they're like, you can't go on leave that long, so just give your notice and then come back when you're healed. And so I had to quit my job because it was so bad. And
Wow.
that was a mental spiral for me.
Mhm.
So, but I do know that people experience so many more years than just 2 years. So,
years is a long time. It's enough to change. The brain is changed by after 3 months. So,
yeah,
you still have, you know, 2 years, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years. We all have to go through the stages to heal those changes the brain makes because
yeah,
of pain in order to come back to reset that stress response back to normal. Yeah, we
yeah,
all have to go through the same kind of unwinding. We get all wrapped, our nervous system gets all wrapped up and hyper, right? Hyper
yeah.
vigilant. We all have to, we might have different ways of unraveling ourselves, but we're all doing that kind of work. Yeah. What kind of work did you do to help you? I mean, I heard you do physical therapy. Was there anything else that you did?
Like for the mental part?
Yeah.
No. I'm still very new at expressing emotions when they come
Okay.
up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that part came later, but the
Mhm.
physical healing. But going back to what you were talking about with gratitude,
Mhm.
my version of that is always somebody else has it worse than me. And so that I can be grateful that even though I'm in this situation, someone else has it worse. And that's not always a good thing because sometimes that'll give me the excuse to not feel my emotions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, like that kind of like I'm thankful that it's not worse kind of mental attitude.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. I'm kind of like, well, I have food in my belly and I have a good bright roof over my head. And I'm actually safe in this moment. I mean, I feel very well, but I'm safe, right?
Yeah.
I, I go to places like that, but we gotta, we have to do where our attention is a superpower. It's just like this superpower we have. So if our attention is on the negative spiral, what
Hmm.
we're going to get more of the negative spiral. If our attention is on, um, I'm having a rough day and I love myself no matter what, then your attention is going to be on that, right? And that one is more productive than the other. One is more healing than the other. So um, that was a very helpful tool for me. Is where is my attention, right? We see the world as we are. And so, in order to change the world, we have to change the way we are. And how do we do that? We can do
Yeah.
where our attention is. Yeah.
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 That one deserves a mic drop.
Beautiful. So, the thing around suppressing emotions, I remember when I first started into this work and I was like, oh, I have to feel. I mean, I seriously remember being in Dr. Peters' like 20 people person classroom, and it was
Mhm.
him and another wellness practitioner who I'll maybe tell you about in a minute, and 20 of us as patients trying to heal, and he called it Adversity Thursday, and I'd never seen one of these things before. I went into biology, not psychology, so I kind of understand the I could take me out into the field and I'll talk to you about the plants and the animals
Mhm.
and the weather.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the psychology stuff, right? So anyway, they start doing this thing, and I'm watching they take turns, one person at a time. Dr. Peters says, what happened to you when you were a kid? So they're wanting some kind of young trauma memory to,
Yeah.
work with that. And I'm watching these people and they're sharing this stuff and they're emoting and, tears and sadness and I'm kind of watching this going, I've never seen anything like this. And these people are like, it's so natural to them. Anyway, it got to me, finally, it was my turn. And I'm, halfway into the group and around the room. and I kind of looked around and I went, next. I was just, I'm not even ready for this. I just said, next person. And so they
Yeah.
went around the room and I kind of watched this thing and I watched this thing and it came around to me again. And I thought, they actually want me to put like a feeling out into the circle. And I was so nervous about it. And I know what that was now, but I just share with my experience. And so I don't even remember what it was, but I remember sharing something. I kind of put it out into the middle and my whole body was tense, And I real quickly in my mind, I was like, I was waiting for somebody to yell at me or hit me or some kind of very negative response to doing that. And
Yeah.
yet what happened? Nothing. No one said a word. And I was like, oh, this is I'm not getting in trouble here, right?
Yeah.
So I it took me a while to actually get in the habit of like, working with this, and it took me a while to unwind and to kind of open myself enough to feel safe enough to. It took a while to unravel that behavior of holding, right?
Yeah.
I did, and I'm grateful I did, because it takes a lot of energy to hold all that stuff inside. We're carrying
Yeah.
it all the time, and it's a habit, and my goodness, it takes a lot of energy. And it doesn't do
It's
anything but
exhausting.
it's exhausting, and it creates
Yeah.
ease in the body, right? It's a kind of chronic stress all by itself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're doing that work. It's important.
Yeah. So I've been studying being a life coach for a while, but up until like this last 7 months is when I've gotten really deep into the education. And one of the the courses I took is like a 5 day, 9 to 12 hour deep dive into this information just to help people um, you know, go into their past traumas and see if they can reframe the way they think about it and stuff like that. So we go through like the different big emotions like grief, guilt and shame, like all those kinds of things. And when they just said the word grief, I just started, like, tears just came out of my eyes, because I had a lot of deaths. There were a lot of deaths in my family in 2020.
Oh,
None of them COVID related.
hmm.
And I didn't let myself feel it. And so they just said the word grief. And I think because I knew I was in a safe place, like I was there to learn about expressing emotions,
Yeah.
my face just started leaking. And then the other one was, they mentioned guilt and shame. I'm like, nope, I'm going to punish myself till I die, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And so it's, that was kind of the beginning of me just letting myself express. So, and you're right, it's exhausting, and you don't realize how exhausting it is until you get it out of your body.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't even know we're carrying it because we've been carrying it so long. We forgot the muscles that are doing the holding. Right?
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like that. And also another thing that I found early on, I found a couple things, and I've had clients that have experienced this too, because I work in this recovery space. Um, was I would have all these feelings all at once, and I didn't have any idea what to do with them, and they were very, very threatening. And I didn't have to do anything. I could just get out of the way and let the body process it, but I didn't know that.
Hmm.
And it was threatening, and 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 I won't say it overwhelmed me, because that would have meant I would have like passed out or something. So it wasn't like that.
Hmm.
But it was close to that. And the thing that helped me through it, just to help, you know, anyone else that's listening to this is having this issue, was I just breathed long, slow, and deep while that stuff was coming up. And I didn't get into the mind. I just felt it. I didn't get into why is this happening? And I
Yeah.
didn't, I just kept breathing, because, my mind could go into, I remember I was like if I feel one more iota of this, I'm going to spontaneously combust. And I was like, that's what my mind does. So that's
Yeah.
not helpful. So I just focused, where's my attention, right? Is it on the insanity of the mind, or is it on the breath, right? That'll take you through it.
Yeah.
So breath is this beautiful bridge through. And that was very helpful for me. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end is something happens and I have a reaction to it, and somebody says, what emotion are you feeling? And I have no idea. I know I've got some kind of sensation in the body, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to label it because I just don't have, I didn't have any modeling for that.
Yeah.
Nobody, there was no teaching around that. There was just, we don't want to see it. So
Yeah.
we're not going to even go as far as labeling it. We're just going to whoop.
Shove it down.
Right.
Shove it in there.
So part of that is to and it's okay if I don't understand it or if I don't know what to call it. Well, just allow yourself to feel it and love it, and allow it to be there. All this intelligence in the body knows exactly what to do. That right emotion, energy, and motion. And
Yeah.
so when we learn to suppress, for me, the meaning I made was you're not safe if you let it out. So as soon as I started letting it out, I was just like, this is not a safe space. That was my meaning. That wasn't necessarily meaning around me
Right.
in this time of my life. It was when I was little, but not in this time. So to unwind that behavior, to shift that behavior into, you're actually safe to feel it's okay.
Yeah.
It takes some time. Yeah. And some
Yeah.
focused work. Yeah.
I love too that you talk about not knowing what to label it as if, we have to label it at all. A lot of my clients, they'll spew out so many different things and I'll be like, okay, I want you to take everything you just said and pretend you're shoving it into a ball and stick it in your body. Tell me, where do you feel it in your body? And they're like, and then they'll go on and that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not dismisses. It gives them permission to not have to label it.
Yeah. And it also helps them ground.
Yeah.
So they kind of, for me, it's like I get in the habit, instead of suppressing emotion, just allowing myself to feel it. And I don't have to intellectualize about it at all. I'm just feeling it. I don't have to make a story about it. I don't have to know why it's there. I don't have to know where it came from. I don't have to know any of that because I'll
Yeah.
go, right. I've got enough. I was trained as a research scientist, and I got to figure everything out. There's a process, and there's what are your assumptions and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need any of that in this space.
Yeah.
And that to me is liberating. I don't have to add all that weight into the space.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't have to know where it came from.
Right.
We just need to not acknowledge that it's there.
Yeah. And let it be what it is, and let it, whatever it's going to, let it process. Because we were holding it all this time and we don't need to do that anymore. Yeah. So it's powerful work, and we're better for it. Everyone around us is better for it. Right. It's powerful work.
Yeah. So I want to dig into trauma.
Okay.
Let's tell me a little bit more about the work you do with trauma.
Well, again, I'm not a doctor or a therapist, but I'm a great coach in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied with Gabor Mate on his online professional compassion inquiry for a year. And then I did a lot of training. I don't know, I've got a couple hundred hours, maybe 300 hours of training in trauma-informed yoga. So I teach from that space. Do you do yoga at all? Do any of your audience?
I don't. I tried it once and it's a long story. It was like a yoga Pilates blend.
Oh,
But I
okay.
had already taken 3 classes before I did that. And so my body was exhausted and my brain just said, never do that again, even though the circumstances made me not like it, not the actual yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so a regular yoga class, with the yoga is kind of like a directed with a physical aspect, the asana, we call it asana postures. That aspect of it are kind of directed towards aligning the body in certain ways to help, well, one, to give you an experience of the now, because yoga is now, so we're learning to be present, but it also helps release stuck energy in the body, this energy you and I were talking about.
Yeah.
So we get into a certain posture and we breathe, and you might feel a little shudder. I mean, that's something that I've felt, in that doesn't last very long for me, but you might feel a little shudder. That's a little bit of release, the body releasing a little extra energy. You just keep breathing. Again, the breath is this bridge through all of it.
Mm.
And in a kind of non-trauma informed yoga class, you might hear the teacher take you through a routine, and she's kind of like, keep up. And we don't do that in trauma informed. We have the student meet themselves where they are, and
Yeah.
we're pushing to go anywhere. We're just here, right? And also in a trauma informed class, we don't put people one behind another. We put them in a circle so nobody has to worry about what's behind them.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, the teacher in a trauma informed space, you don't want to lock eyes with a student if in a trauma informed space, because that can be seen as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So you hold their gaze, and then your eyes go that way, so that you don't present that threat. That's another little piece. And another, just there's a lot of nuance in it. That's why it took so much time, so many hours of training in it. But another one is modulating the voice. So not speaking quickly and not speaking monotone, and allowing some space between the words so nobody feels rushed. Right. So
Yeah.
there's some nuance there that isn't in other kinds of yoga classes. And I remember the first, oh man, you put me in a regular yoga class and I hear a teacher say, keep up. You know what my old behavior would do? I try and go higher. That's where I went. So I didn't just push. I went maximum.
Yeah.
Like, I'm way past the point of injury here, right? I don't even know. Right. So I remember the first time I was actually in a trauma, and it was labeled as such. And I was like, what is that? And I walked in, and I, as I said, like, I had a lot of emotional suppression behavior. And I was about 5 minutes into that class and realized, and I just started crying, which is like, that's not normal for me. And
What's this?
well, almost, but I felt like I was seen and heard for the first time in yoga. I've been in classes, but it's the first time I actually felt like somebody actually saw my needs in that space. And that's, because I'm great at competing. Like, I've got that, I've got that down. But that's not, I mean, kind of, in order to survive chronic pain, you got to have that perseverance thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but that doesn't serve us in that space that we're talking about. It doesn't serve us to keep pushing through it. That will take us into injury. So when we exercise, whatever kind of exercise it is, we want not enough is atrophy, and too much is injury. So we want to find that balance.
Yeah.
Right. And we want to, in the trauma informed space, we want to be gentle and loving, and have compassion for whatever comes in, and just provide safety so that the body can relax. That's what we do in that space. So that's the kind of work that I do. I also do work in historical trauma, which is the modality is ancestral clearing, which doesn't really, and we don't usually use the word, we don't heal trauma in ancestral clearing. We help people release the effects of intergenerational trauma would be how we say that. And we come in with plenty of that, right? We come in with the effects of famine and war and arguments and heartache and
Yeah.
grief and who knows what we come in with that. So ancestral clearing is a beautiful modality. And the other practitioner in Dr. Przekop's pain management group, the other person there that was helping him was John Newton of Health Beyond Belief. And he would sit there and during adversity Thursdays and participate. But he also did this ancestral clearing piece. So this was part of Dr. Przekop's program was the ancestral part.
Yeah.
And so I was so I was so impressed with the effect of the modality that I was like, I went and became a practitioner of it as soon as I could. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So that's the kind of work I do in the trauma space. Also, trauma isn't Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this. Trauma isn't so much what happened to you, it's what happens inside of you because of what happened to you. And you're alone with the hurt, not the hurt itself, that you're alone with the hurt. That's the issue. So Dr. Stephen Porges talks about this, that this is kind of stuff in the trauma space. Bessel van der Kolk talks about it as well. Trauma usually happens in relationship, some kind of relationship, right, where we get disconnected. We heal trauma in a safe relationship. Right. So safe relationship, that's why you have a yoga informed classroom or studio that's got this sense of you do what you can to bring in a sense of safety. Anyway, so I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, it does. And I'm pondering on what keeps coming up for me is when you said everybody's in a circle. And I love that because not only is it like you're in this together, you're not by yourself. And I love that the nobody's behind you, because I mean, some people have trauma where they were attacked from behind, but also people who might have body image issues. There's no one, they don't have to worry about, okay, somebody behind me looking at my butt or the way my leg is crossed or something like that. So that's what keeps coming up for me is this circle. I love that.
Yeah, there's when also when you think about it energetically, there's a different kind of feeling in a room where people are in rows versus people sitting in a circle. Energetically, it's just different. The connection, we're connected in both of the situations, but the connections felt differently in a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got me thinking, I wonder if I could teach a spin class in a circle.
You might be able to do it with alternating some a little bit ahead and some a little behind, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. The way we had it set up was they were in the rows, but every other row, so it was bike, bike, bike. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, there wasn't somebody directly in front of you except for the second row ahead of you. It was like bike, bike, bike. It was like staggered, I guess, would be the word.
It'd probably be a pretty big circle, depending on how many bikes you had. Kind of interesting.
Or maybe even a semicircle would work, because there is where does the instructor stand in the yoga classes?
We sit in the circle. We're in
the middle?
We're not in the middle of the circle. We're in the circle with them.
Oh, you're in the circle. Okay.
We're in the circle with them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's an interesting different kind of energy. Now I have been in done yoga classes, trauma informed yoga classes, where we've got the students in it like a semicircle, like you're imagining, and then the the teachers ahead on a platform.
Got
So
it.
they're all pointed towards the teacher, but they don't have to worry about what's happening behind them. So
Yeah.
that would be another way that you could do that and accomplish the same thing. Yeah.
So,
And it would depend on what, if I'm doing a bunch of movement and stuff, I'd probably do the semicircle with me on a stage. But if I was doing kind of like a chanted meditation where there's maybe everybody's doing the same mudra or something and there's minimum movement, we could circle there. That'd be fine. Yeah. Because you want a sense of unity and connection. Because remember that we get disconnected in trauma. So to heal it, you want to bring in a safe connection.
yeah.
And anything you can do to enhance that is kind of where we go.
Nice. Now I'm interested in trying yoga again. Since I know my experience of it was not the actual yoga class. It was everything. I used to be an over exerciser, and so I would take like 3 or 4 classes in a day and wonder why I couldn't handle the last class.
Oh, well,
Instead of your body's tired, it was what's wrong with me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's all different kinds of yoga these days, and I would suggest if for your first class, trauma-informed class, or yin yoga, which is really just gentle stretching and holding, which is it's a kind of it's not a super high energy class.
Mm-hmm.
Vinyasa flow, that's and hot yoga, I wouldn't start there.
Yeah, I've heard of hot yoga.
And Kundalini.
Sounds sweaty.
I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, but I teach trauma-informed Kundalini. So I teach a little bit different class, but I would encourage you to start with yin and then take a Kundalini class if you can, because I love that.
Okay.
It's really good at moving energy. It's just a little more energetic is all. Anyway, that's my personal preference.
Yeah, I like that too, because I do a lot of heavy lifting with like barbells and stuff like that. So it's a good, for me, it would be good relaxing and mobility. Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about Kundalini is I actually have to blend my yoga practice with a lifting, stretching as kind of resistance practice, because it doesn't balance my muscles. I had to go to the local gym to crunch. We got a crunch here in town, and work with a physical trainer. He took about 3 minutes and looked me over, and he knew right away where I was weak, and I was like, wow, I see my yoga practice is just not serving me this way. And he had a whole routine, set up where we could kind of get my muscles balanced, which was pretty cool, which included resistance and a little bit of weight work.
Mm-hmm. That's a good trainer.
Yeah, I was great. Yeah, I was grateful. And so Kundalini is nice because it is energetic and it'll help you move energy quickly. And it also, there's ways you can breathe that are cooling to the body but healing, and it's a very interesting practice. And I can't do all the different movements they do, but I've been in tons and tons of classes, and I've got a bunch of different teachers that I sit in front of, even though I teach it myself. It's kind of a space where it's very generative, and I love their meditations, and it helps to clear that. Remember we talked about the negative mind, that negative thinking habit? It really helps clear stuff. Oh my goodness. And it also helps open the heart so that we're not so afraid of our emotions. It helps us move that stuff.
Yeah. I'm sold. Yeah, I'm sold.
Awesome.
Well, I have one last question for you, which I ask everybody at the end of every episode, and that is, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
I would say, please have compassion for yourself. right? Everybody's going through something. No matter what you're going through, please have compassion for yourself. I just that has served me because my just because of the way I was raised and learned to suppress things and stuff, I had quite the taskmaster in my mind. I had an inner critic that was so was so out of line and extreme that I took her to inner mean girl school and gave her a makeover. I actually teach that. That's part of my work that I do,
Nice.
teaching that. So I had to learn how to have compassion for myself, and the yoga was very helpful, by the way, in helping to open the heart enough to like bring that in. So, but and so was ancestral clearing. That was another piece of it. Was important. So this thing around compassion, I don't really think I can emphasize it enough. And may think, oh, that's a softball, Elizabeth. Well, actually, I just laid down something pretty powerful. So you may see it as a softball, but you know, you might want to take it up and check that out and see how it works for you before you judge whether it's, you know, whether it's helpful or not. Yeah.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Kipp signing off. Until next time.